As the show continues on again this morning here during Daybreak, I'm Jeff Slakey, and another great focus on Shelton presented by Peninsula Credit Union here, still in the office of the Chief of Police for the City of Shelton, Carole Beason. Hi again.
Hi.
Nice to talk with you more. And today we talked about the Civil Service Commission and how that helps the police department. Today we're going to talk about some of the wins recently for the police department. You guys have been able to solve some crimes and do some other checks on folks.
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share some of the great work that's being done here in the city. I'm always impressed with the professionalism of our officers and how familiar they are with their community. And the first case I want to talk about showcases exactly that. Back on January 23rd, during the graveyard shift, we had a burglary at the library here in town. A suspect picked up a rock, threw it through the door, and this was captured on some surveillance video. So the detectives were able to get that video, and Sergeant Chris Downs saw that video and recognized the person that was in that video, was able to go find that person who was still dressed in the exact same clothing that they were at the time that the incident occurred, and able to take that person into custody for that burglary.
Wow.
It's funny because when I first was getting hired to come here, that was one of the things that I was really excited about coming here, is because when you work in a big city, you very rarely see anybody more than once. But here, our officers know people in the community, and whenever something happens, they are far more likely to say, "Oh yeah, I know who this is," or "Hey, I know how to handle this." And it's always really great for me when they come in and go, no, and they already have a great idea as far as what's going on. And so this was a great example of that. And within a couple of days, they had this person identified and in custody.
So when it comes to these types of situations and then other types of community policing that the Shelton Police Department has been engaged in for many years now, talk to me about how respect both ways, when you're talking with people out there on the streets, helps to make it seem easier for someone to come and talk to law enforcement, or be able to approach someone because there's those backgrounds.
I think that, a lot of the officers here have been part of this community for a very long time, and one of the things that's so important when it comes to community policing is going out and making contacts with people when they aren't having the worst day of their life, or when they haven't been the victim of a crime, so that you can have those interactions with folks, and that they can realize that even though officers out there with a gun and a badge, they're still people that have lives of their own and can engage you in conversations when there's not really a police reason to be there. I'm really impressed with how well some of my folks go out and interact in the community on a daily basis, even when there's not a law enforcement purpose for being there. COVID makes everything a little bit more interesting, though, because officers want to go out there and connect with people, but at the same time, they're trying to be very respectful of people's concerns about potentially getting sick.
Sure.
So it's made things a little more complicated than it would have been before, but still, I'm so impressed with how our officers go out and reach out with folks. And I have a great picture that was put on the Facebook page of the officers helping kids put the chain back on their bicycle and stuff like that. And it's always nice to hear how my officers are going out there and helping folks in things that are not necessarily police work, but they make such a difference in the community. So it's awesome. A great part of being here.
That's really cool. Any other great successes from the police department?
Yes, just this last weekend, our graveyard, most things tend to happen at night. I don't know why that is, but so we had an instance where officers were called. Some folks saw some people in a vehicle that looked like they were passed out in a car, and they wanted them to go out and check on their welfare. And, the officers could have easily just flashed a light in there, and once they woke up and saw that they were awake, just kind of left. But when they got closer, things didn't quite look right, and they noticed that there was a gun in that vehicle when they got closer. And the more they investigated, they realized that the folks in the car, both of the people in the vehicle, were felons, and they ended up finding a pretty substantial amount of narcotics in that vehicle. And they also recovered an AR-15 and an AK-47 from that vehicle.
Wow.
So the two folks in that vehicle went for a bunch of felony charges for being felons in possession of handguns and then all of the narcotics. And, I don't know what the two of them were going to be up to with that kind of stuff in their car, but you can bet they were going to be up to no good. So, whatever they were going to do, the officers were able to prevent that from happening. And now those two people are in jail.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yep.
That's great. And the city of Shelton and the police department is continuing to do outreach and get out in the public as best they can. And as the weather gets nicer, we'll see more of them out and about too. And maybe one of these days, the Lions will get this basketball court up down here. We can do some pickup games.
That would be fun.
Officers.
I'm hoping to have some kind of a barbecue event once they have it up and running too, because, it would be fun to go out there and have some hamburgers and hot dogs and maybe play some horse and, whatnot. They were talking at the Lions meeting earlier this week that'd be fun to have a City of Shelton basketball tournament at some point, and I think that'd be a great thing to do. So
they still do those like fire and ice things where the fire and the police do basketball games and things like that for camaraderie, or is it just
I haven't seen anything like that in the time that I've been here in Shelton, but I know that they do that in other communities, so I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that here.
Well, we'll have to get Chief Patty on that. That's exactly right. I'll give him a call. That'd be fun.
Let the best first responders win.
That's it, for sure. Again, here in the office of Chief Carole Beason from the City of Shelton Police Department during a Focus on Shelton, presented by Peninsula Credit Union. Great work by you, your staff, and the officers out there on the road. That's awesome to hear.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the great work that the officers are doing. I really appreciate that.
For sure.